So I am here with the amazing Deb Taylor, human design expert extraordinaire. And if you've ever been curious as to why you are who you are, this is the exact video for you. So human design, I'm going to come at it as if I'm a complete novice, Deb, basically, because I pretty much am. And hopefully what we'll learn from today's session is exactly what it is, how you can use it to sort of guide yourself in the way that you want to go forward, especially as this is called the Hope Session, so going into 2025. But also, I want to know a bit more about you, how you got into it in the first place, and also, how you can use it to be authentic in yourself, which is pretty much the topic of our talk. So, Deb, do you want to introduce yourself and tell me a bit more about human design?
Yeah. So my name is Deborah Taylor. I am a human design specialist, but I actually came at human design like a lot of people. I kind of stumbled across it and then got very intrigued by it because actually I had some real epiphanies when I discovered it, and then went down, like a lot of people who get into human design, a bit of a rabbit hole, which I emerged from. And for me, I always want to approach human design from a way where I can give more of a practical application for how people can use it. But I'm always experimenting on myself first, and that is actually aligned to my own human design blueprint. And so, so some of these things that when life is lifing and we're going through various things, something will come across our paths and it stops us in our tracks and it helps us. And then we think, depending on how you approach things as an entrepreneur, you think, actually, wouldn't this be great if I could use this to help other people?
Yes.
And I'm quite a solutions-driven person. So I'm always looking for ways to find different things. I'm a bit of a magpie, how I can use these things to help people. And so it sort of really came from there, but really much from my personal experimentation with human design.
I'd love the fact that you used the word epiphany. So what was it that human design lit within you?
So I had a reading. So it was during lockdown and we had a lot more time for introspection because we couldn't really go anywhere. So a lot of us turned inwards and some of us had more of an awakening. I was already on a more spiritual path. And this just further illuminated the path that I was on. And when I had a reading from a friend of mine in South America, actually looking at my chart, the biggest epiphany was around emotions. So maybe if I just explain a little bit about the genesis of human design so it makes sense in the context of this epiphany. So human design is a channeled system that has been around since the late 1980s. And it is a synthesis of ancient Eastern and Western mysticism combined with epigenetics and quantum physics. And so it takes the Chinese I Ching, it takes our Western astrology system, it takes a Brahmin chakra system and the Kabbalah tree of life, and elements, like I said, of epigenetics and quantum physics, and it goes into a bit of a blender in a way, and then it comes out with this system that is an amalgamation of all of these different elements. And really what it's designed to do, it's not like a personality driven system in a very prescriptive way, and it isn't like astrology. We're not looking to predict things. What it is showing you a blueprint of your own differentiation of actually your embodied uniqueness. So if you think of the parable of the golden Buddha, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but
but if you want to explain it, that'd be great.
So I think this is always a really good way of explaining what conditioning is and what happens when we grow up. So the golden Buddha in Thailand, it's like encased all in white, and that's like layers of dust. So if you think like from the moment we're born, we're like sponges up until 7, 8. We're being programmed by our environment, by our families, our family history, our family ancestral stories are imprinted on us. And all these imprints from school, if we go to church, the country we grow up in, it starts informing us of who we are without knowing who we really are at a core level, which is our authenticity. And so we grow up with everyone projecting onto us who we are, what we should be, our worthiness, our feelings about what success is, what we should do. And we sort of forget that childlike, playful person, which at our core, when we were that young, had more of that authenticity because it wasn't really sort of ironed out of us. So it's just like with the golden Buddha, it's all these layers of dust or clay that have accumulated, and then somebody knocks it and it reveals this golden Buddha underneath, and it's like removing all of these layers of like dust and accumulated dirt, and underneath is this golden Buddha. And for me, that's really, in essence, what human design starts to reveal. It starts to reveal our gifts behind these shadows and limitations and beliefs and interpretations that we have built up from our childhood conditioning.
I love that, because it really shows that what you're actually like in your core is very, very different from what's been put on you from the outside perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so growing up in Britain, we have a particular attitude around emotions. And if you're a very emotional person, or you react in an emotional way when you're growing up, you sometimes learn to kind of push down those emotions because it's not, and so you don't trust them. And so one of the things that came out when I first discovered human design was that actually we have in human design, we have 5 different energy types. And we also have, within those energy types, everyone has what they call strategy and authority. And the strategy is applicable to a particular energy type, but authority is how we make decisions. And this was a huge epiphany for me, because and the authority and the way you make decisions is determined by the energy centers in our chart. So there are 9 energy centers, and some of them we have defined, which means we have consistent energy to them, and some of them are undefined, which means we have inconsistent energy. That energy is not always available to us. And in my chart, I'm emotionally defined in the solar plexus. So I make decisions from an emotional perspective, but that doesn't mean I should make them in an emotional way. There's a particular way that you approach it, which is the thing that I've worked on the most, and it has been the biggest change. But it's also been accepting of the fact that I'm designed to feel this full spectrum of emotions. And so I remember my mother saying, actually, Deb, sometimes with you, it's like being on an emotional roller coaster. Like one day you're really happy, and then the next day you're really in this slough of despond, everything's gone wrong, and then you bounce back again. And I used to think, well, there must be something wrong with me, but there's nothing wrong with me. That's my design. I'm designed to feel into this, but it's actually how I use this to make better decisions. So I'm not designed to make decisions when I'm in an emotional high or an emotional low. Actually, it's from a place of neutrality. But the way I approach this now over a long period, over the last 6 years of working with human design, and particularly a lot during lockdown, was from a place of playfulness, because the solar plexus is a place of creativity as well. So how can I do this when I feel alive? Or if I'm making a decision about my business or something I'm working on, I'll say, well, what would it feel like if I experienced this further down the line? Or what would it feel like if I didn't do this?
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah, so it can seem quite simplistic initially, like don't do it from a high, don't do it from a low, feel neutrality. But actually, if you approach it from a place of this is a center of creativity, how can I be more creative in how I make my decisions? And actually, it is empowering when you decide you realize that if you're emotionally defined, you're designed to make decisions over time. I'm not designed to make decisions from a place of spontaneity.
Right.
I'm not designed to just feel into something and just go, oh, is this a yes or a no? I'll have an extra step before I get to that yes, no point.
Yeah.
I'm a manifesting generator. And emotional definition means you need to feel into these things and accept what you're feeling. And then there's nothing right or wrong, but actually that's information. Rather than going, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this, I've opened myself up to, yes, I should be feeling these things. And what intelligence, what emotional intelligence is that feeding me? And I've made much better decisions. Because when I go back and I look at decisions I've made prior to that, I've made them on the basis of FOMO. I mean, if we think about the coaching industry, so much of the sales techniques is based on scarcity, FOMO. That really doesn't work for someone that's emotionally defined because it dysregulates you.
Yeah.
And it takes you and veers you off a path. And you're an emotional manifestor. So even though you can move really quickly, you still have to make your decisions over time.
Me personally, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting listening to you because you're basically saying that your human design has allowed you the space and the possibility to just embrace who you are and make decisions based upon that. So if anybody's listening and they've heard you mention, I'm a manifesting generator, and you've just said to me, I'm a manifestor, how would you find out what kind of human design you are?
Sure. But just to go back, what it has given me, or it's given me permission, and I feel like with human design, it gives you a permission slip. The permission slip to go, you know what, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm different to everyone else in my family, and I'm designed this way. I'm not designed to be homogenized, and it gives you spaciousness. When you feel into it, this spaciousness that gives you the space to be yourself or make decisions in the way that feels most comfortable for you, not how you've been told to make decisions, because we've been told it's our head that makes the decisions, it's our mind. But our mind is not always the best guide. It's actually human design. It teaches you it's your body that you feel into things, whether you are emotionally defined, whether it's at other parts of your chart. Other people, it's the spleen, so they're more spontaneous, but they've probably been told not to be so spontaneous. So it's really deconditioning so that we can make decisions that really work in the way we're designed to work. But just going back to what you said about the energy types. So in human design, the first place we go to is the 5 different energy types. And so you can and I can give you the link. You can go in and get a free chart. If you know your date of birth and your place of birth and your time of birth, but if you don't know your time of birth, you can work with a human design specialist who can help you around that. But if you know all of those 3 things, you can feed them into the chart and it will create your own blueprint, which is what we call a body graph. And it will show you your energy type or give you other information. You can go much deeper, but we're keeping this at the kind of beginner level. So you'll want to know what your energy or aura type, as some people call it, is. And there are 5 different types. And it doesn't define who you are. I feel it gives you some more of an expansive thing to
I'd agree with that, definitely.
And for some people who are not an energy type that they expect, it can be a little bit of a shock or an adjustment as to, because I've been living mainly because you've been living your life in a way that everyone else has told you to live it, and your energy type is counterintuitive to how you've been told to be. And so when we look at the 5 energy types, and you're a manifestor, and only 9% of the population are manifestors. And this is a really key thing that helps a lot of people, I think, is that when you discover that manifestors are the only energy type who are designed to really initiate, meaning like you can have an idea and you're emotionally defined, so you can sleep on it, but when it feels right, you can move very quickly.
Yeah,
in a
home sessions, prime example, what I'm doing at the moment.
If it feels right as a manifestor, and you're designed, and the thing with manifestors, and I love manifestors, and I have manifestor clients, and I think what I really like is to encourage them to take bold moves. Like, you don't have to look around and see what anyone else is doing. That's not your role. Your role is to be a bit of a revolutionary. And that doesn't mean loud. It doesn't mean, we are starting like something like the French Revolution or invading a country, although there are plenty of manifestors who have done that in the past. But you're designed to go, actually, I have this idea. It's a really deep conviction within me, and I need to have the courage of my convictions, because no one around me is going to say this is the right thing to do. They're not designed that way. You've just got to go, I'm going to go with this, but I'm going to start. And the other part with manifestors is informing. So informing people, sharing with people, and then basically that's how you gather your own supportive army around you that helps you move in a bold direction, that helps you lead. So you're leading the way as a manifestor.
And I absolutely get this, because I'm very much like this. I am impulsive. I don't always inform people, but that's what my human design's taught me to do that more of. So that's
you.
Yeah. So that's 9% of the population. What's the next one?
Yeah, so actually, to carry on that theme, you want the people who are in response mode around you. So manifestors need the next 2 energy types as well, because you need these people around you to kind of carry that energy forward. So it's really about how we all work collectively in a way that works with all our different energies and types. So there's a collective tribal element to this. Because no man is an island. And so the next type is the generator, so 37% of the population. And they are the master builders. So theirs is about mastery over time. Yours is about being a trailblazer, really, and a bit of a maverick. So what I say is manifestors are not necessarily the type that are designed to work in a team.
I do quite like working for myself, but I do work well in a team.
I know you work well in a team, but it's more like team adjacent, because you have such fast energy. You're designed to work like, if you think of a manifestor as an athlete, he would be a Usain Bolt, right?
Nice. I'll say
and
that.
The reason why you need to inform is, say you're in a relay, you have a baton and you need a generator to hand the baton onto, in a way that your energy is so strong and it's powerful, even though as women we might not feel that. I think there's conditioning around that, which I see with my manifestor clients. But generators are the master builders. So if you want someone that's got really powerful doing energy, that can keep going, keep building, keep in a place of mastery, that's what the generator does. They're about the mastery of their skill over time. My partner, my boyfriend, is a musician and music producer, and he's a generator, and he is very much about the mastery, and he will slow down to master. He will go and step by step by step, and I'm working on something. And my energy type is a hybrid of both the generator and the manifestor, and so I find that quite irritating.
I would do as well.
Because I'm not designed that way. So we'll get on to the next energy type. So here's this like But he has this, he's very aligned to his design. So it's like, no, this is how it works. This is how I do things. I build and I build and I build.
Mm.
And then generators, when they do that, they build quickly.
Right.
There's always a kink in the fire hose, as I like to say. Generators, because we grow up in a world of doing, and doing is rewarded, generators can burn out because they're designed to do, but you're not designed to do everything.
No.
And so generators, the way human design works is like, well, they can't outstrip everyone. So they will hit a bit of resistance where they have to they reach a plateau.
Yeah.
And so they've got to learn how to use strategic rest. So a manifestor will work in sprints. And the other thing I'd say, as a manifestor in business, you might have a product or a service that works, but you might get very bored with it at some point. And if a manifestor gets very bored with a particular service or product, and everyone else will be like, well, it's selling, you should keep with it. Well, just because everyone says you should, you need to examine, is it right for you?
What's working for you?
Because manifestors, maybe that was right in that time when you were leading that charge in a particular direction. And then actually you might suddenly go, this doesn't energetically feel right. It's counterintuitive to everyone else because it's making money or it's working. Well, actually, what if you're up level? How can you up level if you don't retire something or evolve it? So for a manifestor, evolving that might mean retiring something to create space for your next charge.
Like that. Yeah. So you mentioned that you're a manifesting generator. Tell me about that one.
So manifesting generators, 35% of the population. It's like a high 33%. It's the hybrid of a generator and a manifestor. And it depends on your chart, I think, as well, with a manifesting generator, as to that kind of balance and tension between the two types. But essentially, a manifesting generator is more of a time bender. So we have this restless, fast manifestor energy, and the tension that we feel is that we still have this generator energy. So we respond, we don't initiate. But we can move more quickly because we can initiate once we've got this feeling of response. But we have to resist the urge to initiate. And when I look back, and all the things that didn't work was when I actually pushed to initiate before and response can mean a cue from, well, I might get an idea, like a response, a download, whatever anyone wants to call it. In my kind of awake sleep time, get an idea, but I need to put that out to, I have some trusted clients I work with who are like my testers. So I might say, oh, I've had this idea. What do you think?
Yeah.
And if they say to me after a day, they'll come back, and one's a generator, one's a projector. They'll say, yeah, I'm going to buy this. Can you do this? Then I can move really quickly.
Right.
But I don't, or if you can go out into your audience and ask questions, but I don't always find that really reliable. But I've got a number of clients that have tested things for me in the past. So if I put it out to them and they go, yeah, actually, this is a good idea, I'd buy it, then I know that I can move because I've got the response I needed.
So it's very much based upon looking at a mirror almost and reflecting back on you to make sure that you're making the right choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes for generators as well. But for manifesting generators, then you can move really quickly. We do tend to try and shortcut things or miss out steps. Hence why when you're working with a generator who's super methodical, actually they're really good because they do help you. But you do have this tendency as a manifesting generator, you just want to go. It's that manifestor urge to kind of I could do this really quickly. So, for example, a manifesting generator would be the type of person that gets flat pack furniture and decides they can build it really quickly without really looking at all of the instructions.
Yeah.
Then they put something around the wrong way and they have to undo it. But in that rewinding, it's a process of actually, oh, I've learned a way to do it even more quickly.
And I guess you get the generator to help you to fix it.
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. But a really good example of a manifesting generator is Elon Musk. You know, a guy that will impulsively buy something like Twitter and X and then work out how he's really going to use it afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, he's a classic example of jumping out of the plane with a parachute and then working out how it's going to work.
God, yeah. So the generator and the manifesting generator, they support the manifestor.
Yeah,
what are the other two types?
And then we've got the projector. So,
right.
So projectors are what we call the New World Order. Manifestors are the Old World Order. So you think a lot of like revolutionaries, dictators, like that old world order of like charging ahead. See, the projectors are kind of deceptive, I think, because you get a lot of leaders now who are projectors. So projectors, and if you think about the modern world of like influence and recognition, that really feeds into that a projector's energy. So projectors are about 19% of the population, and they have a different sort of aura. So for a manifestor, your aura is a bit more closed. That's so it allows you to make these bold moves. You're a little bit more Marmite in a way, because you're not designed to appeal to everyone, because you have to lead a charge, lead the way. Projectors have what we call more of a penetrating aura. They're the ones that kind of, if you've met someone who could just feel like they can see through you or see into you, that's very much a projector energy. Manifesting generators. Manifesting generators have a bit of that Marmite energy. Think about Elon Musk, but they also have an enveloping, there's something quite inviting about them. They're inviting people in because they need a response. Generators have this very open and enveloping aura because they need that response. You don't need that response. So it can feel sometimes maybe a bit lonely as a manifestor in a way, because you think you don't need to be liked in order to make your bold moves. You need to actually just have the courage of your convictions.
So could you give me an example of, say, someone that people would recognize as a projector who's more
a really, really good examples of projectors. Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, Boris Johnson, Barack Obama, Brad Pitt.
I would have seen Boris as more of a manifestor.
Right, but no, he's very aligned, because if you think about when he did really well, he was invited to become Mayor of London. He didn't initiate that. So the reason that when he tried to come back, didn't he, in the last leadership election? He invited himself into it. He wasn't invited, and he didn't get
that, yeah.
So when he's initiated, it doesn't come off. So if you think about the Queen, she's the best example, like the Jubilee. The big thing about projectors is that they need to be invited, but that doesn't mean you sit there and you don't do anything. You still work on your business, you still do all your marketing, but what you're doing is creating an environment that brings people into your world, and then they invite you into theirs. So there's like a dance, I feel, with projectors. And the other side of projectors, it's about the invitation, but it's also about recognition. So I always say to projector clients, you need to learn a practice of self-recognition. It's like your love language. So you need to recognize yourself, and your self-care as a projector is a practice of self-recognition. To recognize your gifts, to actually really almost love bomb yourself about how good you are. The more you do that, the more you have a glow up, the more other people notice you and invite you into their world.
So in terms of the actual word projector, is it that they're taking the energy from other people and giving it back?
I think they're like a lighthouse, if you think like a beacon. Okay. But it's also it's really they have this very penetrating way of, they're what we call like if you were looking at an orchestra, they would be the conductor. They're the guides.
Right.
Because the different energy types have different types of makeup of energy. The generators and the manifesting generators, they've got this huge doing energy because they have the sacral defined in their charts. So think of them as like the Energizer bunnies. They can just keep on going, but they run out, because just because you can do doesn't mean you should. And there's so many rewards in our society for doing. And the other energy types have been caught up in this world of rewards of doing, but actually you're designed to do differently and designed to work in a way that really manages your energy. So, for example, a manifestor, you might work in sprints and then wonder why you run out of power, but you're not meant to just keep on going. You're meant to be strategic in how you work and use your energy. And also you've got generators to offload things onto if you want to. Okay. Projectors are about finding, what I've always noticed, and in with my friends' kids who are projectors, because I always look at my friends' children's charts, I'm like, oh, look at the projectors. They're always finding a shortcut. They're always finding a very strategic way to conserve energy when they do a task. Not in a manifesting generator, time bending, do it quicker, but how can I bring something in? Really good example of a projector is Jeff Bezos.
Right.
And his chart, he only has 2 centers defined. So it's not as if he's got, in human design, we have a number of motor centers. He's only got 1 motor center. So whenever you read a lot of stuff he's written about building Amazon, it was always about finding ways that were strategic to save time and energy. And as he got older, he realized that he wasn't necessarily, without knowing about human design, designed to work in the way everyone else was. And so he had to find ways to manage that energy.
Amazing. So that's the projector.
Some innovation with projectors will come from, well, actually, it's got to be a better way of doing this.
Okay.
Because they don't necessarily have this subconsciously, this, oh, I can just do everything. Subconsciously, maybe not knowing they can, actually pushes them to innovate in a different way.
Yeah. Whereas I guess manifestors probably think that they can do everything.
Yeah, and they'll run out, but they'll go, well, I can just go really quickly.
Yeah. So that's 4 of them. What's the final one, Deb?
The final one is only 1% of the population. So think of them as very rare unicorns. And I've been lucky enough to work with a few, they're reflectors. And reflectors are really important because they are highly intuitive. So if you think about somebody that holds a mirror up to society, and they calibrate for you, they're reflecting back. Often if you're talking to a reflector, or the insights they give you, you think, how did you know that that's what I was thinking about? Or how did you anticipate that? They have no definition in their chart, meaning that out of the 9 energy centers, they don't have any consistent energy. They are highly affected by the moon. So they're the lunar beings. So the way they make decisions is over time. So they need, really, in business, they need a really trusted advisor or a sounding board that they can talk to. Otherwise, they've got to kind of sample the energies of the transits of the planets, particularly the sun, because they feel into everyone else's energy over the lunar cycle, and then they make a decision.
Amazing.
So a really good example of a reflector is Margaret Atwood.
Okay.
So about Margaret Atwood and her dystopian visions of the future through, like, The Handmaid's Tale. She was writing those in the late 70s and 80s, and actually, projecting into the sampling energy and feeling into things and projecting into the future as to what. And actually, as we are advancing over time, her novels still gain more resonance because they seem so realistic now that we start to see these things playing out.
Yeah, I'm loving this. This is it's fascinating to me because you can also see how you can once you know what human design you are, and we've only touched upon it in terms of the energy centers, how you can work together in whether that's a small team within a business or within a larger organization as well, and find bits that complement each other.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, in Silicon Valley, they're using human design more when they're building teams. And actually, the way I'm using human design that fits with that is with my boyfriend when he's signing up new artists, and he's really interested in human design. He's a generator. I've gone through his chart. So when he signs up an artist that he's working with, as a young girl he's working with at the moment, she's 23, 24, very talented. And I looked at her chart and she is a projector, an emotionally defined projector.
So they work well together.
They do, but it's really helped them in terms of, I've told her that she has to really honor her energy, and she will turn up and she doesn't need a lead in. She comes in and she's ready to get going. And I was like, that's because you want to conserve your energy. So she can work consistently really well over 4 hours, but she's very focused and very determined. And there's other parts of her chart that work with that. So I've kind of looked at their charts and given them guidance on how they can work better together, because he's someone that could keep going till 4 a.m. and she'd be like, well, I'm here. I'm not here to chat or mess around or whatever. I'm here. Can we get on with the work? And then she'll say, right, I'm ready to go now after 4 hours, or my voice is great, or and it's given her the confidence to actually say how she best works.
Yeah.
So really she knew it intuitively. And that, yeah, and we have an older an artist who works with them both, who does backing vocals. He's quite well known in the 80s, and he's also a projector. And so he will say, he'll look at me and say, I'm really tired. and I'm like, yeah, these are projectors, like they've done their bit.
Yeah.
Whereas a generator be like, I'm just getting started. I've got so much energy. I want to carry on. They've really laser focused on what they do, and they get it done. And then they're like, actually, now's my time to go. But it works really well. So I feel like actually it's about how you get the best out of people. And, rather than thinking everybody's an apple, and we all work the same way, and why doesn't this person work
all different?
So actually you can get so much more out of people when you allow them to play to their strengths.
I think we should do another session, Deb, on like how you can use your human design as part of a team. But I'd really love to know.
It's really interesting seeing how it works when you apply it that way. And I feel that as human design becomes, it's quite well known, I guess, in the sort of more spiritual entrepreneur space,
in the corporate world.
But as it becomes more well known over time, you can start to see how it can actually really help teams work. Because I know how I work in a team is very different to somebody else. I'm more adjacent. I'm the kind of person that you would want to come in as a consultant to move, shake things up. And some manifesting generators work really well in a team, and others, because of their chart, they're more individually driven, but actually you need them there for input, but you don't necessarily want them in a team, because it's all about how you're building that balance.
So I'd love to know, because it's like one of the topics that I wanted to cover within the talk was, how do you use your unique authority, so whether you're a manifesting generator or a projector or whatever, to actually really show up authentically as who you are?
So this is a really good question, and it's always a work in progress as well. But as a manifesting generator, mine is about the courage to be different, the courage to be a bit of a maverick. And so when I come up with an idea and I put it out to my clients, it's about having the courage of my convictions to act on that, because it might be counterintuitive, or it's not something anyone else is really doing in this human design space. And then you get into your head a little bit and think, and I have when we look at our charts, sort of in detail, but I have the gate of truth or doubt is like my life's work or my brand. So actually I'm designed to question and be curious, but the flip side of it, the shadow, is doubt. So when I get into that, I know that I have to kind of find a way out of it. So for me, it's about that courage and dare to be different. And that is where you become more authentic, where you and I think for women as well, when you look at your chart and you look at the voice, the throat center, and that's something that comes up a lot regardless of what energy type. So manifestors and manifesting generators generally have very defined throat energy. We're designed to have very strong voices, but actually you can come across female manifestors and manifesting generators who don't resonate with that, because that energy, because it's so defined when they were growing up, was it's too much.
Yeah.
And so that is what inhibits authenticity. And absolutely, as a manifestor, this boldness and this strong vocal energy is like, you're too much. And so female manifestors often hide in plain sight, because they'll be like, when I say you're designed to be bold and make these moves, then I have to turn it into actually a bit more nuanced. A really, really good example of a female manifestor who really doesn't give a stuff is Martha Stewart. If you look at the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, if you're a manifestor, I really recommend you watch it. I started watching the documentary and I thought, she's got to be a manifestor. She has to be. So then I looked at her chart and went, oh, of course she's a manifestor. She's a trailblazer. She created niches that didn't exist. She created niches for other women to go into.
Amazing. So that's the manifesting generator and the manifestor.
And the manifestor. So that authenticity, I'd say really around the voice is very important. And deconditioning, what we conditioning is that in human design we have true self and not self themes. And so even when you're defined, you can have that conditioning, particularly if you've been given this good girls don't speak up, good girls don't use their voice that way. You've got to work and find a way where that you can really use those powers for your like authentic good. And the generator is really about not always doing, and it's about honoring that mastery and being really confident in yourself that you are designed to master something over time. And not all generators have defined throats. They might not have as much definition as other people, so there's sort of nuances in every chart. But I would say with generators, it's really also, when you meet resistance, there's a reason for that, because that will lead to an up level. And manifesting generators also meet that kind of resistance, because you've got this sacral energy, which is like the Energizer Bunny energy. You're not always meant to just be doing. So it's about questioning, are you doing the right things in your business? Are you leading your way in the right way? Are you being a master in the right way?
Yeah. How about the projector?
A good example of a generator is someone like Oprah Winfrey,
right?
And that sort of, so somebody like that, someone like Beyonce, she's a generator
as well, right? How about projector? I'm just very conscious of your time.
Yes. With projectors, it's really about this recognition. I really feel with projectors, I always say to my projector clients, that's love language for you is recognition. So I'd say like the love language for generators is probably like something like acts of service, because they can, but actually like be careful about what you're mastering and serving for. Like, just because you've got all this energy, you shouldn't be just committing to something. But projectors, it's about recognizing your gifts. And
is it for asking for feedback as well, or do they have to be careful of that?
No, I don't think it's necessarily asking for feedback. It's like the invitation can feel like, oh, I've got to sit back too much and wait. It's not. It's about leaning into that recognition. And when you're marketing yourself, really having this courage to say what you're really good at and really owning it. And then that it's like recognition is reciprocal, but also projectors could work really well when they recognize other people. So it's that reciprocity leads to invitations.
Okay.
The other thing I say with projectors is to do a timeline and go through really pivotal things that have happened in your life and actually see what led to them. And 9 times out of 10, it comes from an invitation.
God, that's interesting, isn't it?
It's actually about patience and timing with projectors, but it doesn't mean in business that they can't do the marketing. They can't, they still have energy.
Yeah.
They just deploy it wisely.
Yeah.
And
with the reflector, is that a similar thing?
A reflector is really, it's not the easiest energy. It's about having the right people around you, but also the courage to say. So I have worked with a reflector friend, and we worked on a particular project, and I wanted to go so fast, and I went really fast over a day at 48 hours, and then they were I exhausted them.
God.
And so they were just like, I really need to rest now, because I was pushing and I had so much energy to get something done in a short period of time. And I think then it's like recognizing with reflectors that it depends on the transits, like of particularly the sun and moon as well, like whether they have the energy for that, but also when they feel depleted, they need to say, hang on, I need to stop.
Yes.
And they have just a different way of working, and it's really honouring that. But they're 1% of the population, but they spent so much time out of alignment or wondering why they really don't have the energy of other people. But they can still have a lot of output. If you look at someone like Margaret Atwood or Sandra Bullock's a reflector.
So I guess if you constantly felt like you're a round peg in a square hole, it'd be a really good idea to do your human design.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say with reflectors, they work well with, say, a projector, somebody partnering with somebody that has an energy that is supportive. But they can get a lot done. They can be successful in business. It's just they have to have really strong boundaries, because their energy is something and their energy is something that's sampling other people's energy. So they have such wisdom and knowledge, and it's such, they're great. They're great to work with. But if they're with a manifestor or a manifesting generator, I feel that energy is slightly off, because we're so like, let's go. And we're not. I in my own experience, I felt really bad afterwards, because I was like, I feel like I broke them.
oh my God, I found this so fascinating, and I think we are nearly out of time. So what I'll do is, if I ask you to send the link to me, and I can put it in the description below the video. But if anybody wanted to work with you to find out more, what's the best way for them to go about that?
I'll give you a link to my website,
because we've barely touched the surface. I mean, you've talked a lot about sacral and spleen, and I'm aware of the 9 different energies. But there's definitely scope for more information to be found, I think, to really understand how it works.
It's been lovely talking to you. And
yes, thank you. Right, I'm going to stop the recording.
And good luck with these sessions, because I think they're really brilliant and fascinating. So I can't wait to tune into the others. So thank you for your time.
Good, no worries. Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening today. And as I said, I will put those links in the description below.
Thanks, Phil.